We'll let it be organic.
The introduction is always organic.
We need to come up with a better one, but for now, welcome to the Softbrains.
Welcome to the Softbrains.
So, how was, it's Friday today. How was your week?
Great.
You had a good week?
Yeah. How was your week?
I had a good week too. I am ready for it to be the weekend, and I don't want it to not be the weekend.
I agree. Well said, sir.
Thanks.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Because mine's shorter.
Yeah, we'll let you go first this time, and I'll go second. This might be a longer one.
I mean, I think mine's shorter. I don't think it'll take me too long to talk about this.
I think mine's long.
Yeah. He's the long boy.
I guess let's find out. You can go ahead.
You don't want to banter anymore. We're not going to be like My Favorite Murder where we talk for like an hour before we actually get into
I talk to you all day, though.
Rude. They don't talk to you all day.
That is true. But I talk to you all day. Our witty banter is out of the way. Maybe we need
Save it for this.
Yeah, maybe we need to stop talking throughout the day.
Just not talk to each other at all.
Yeah.
Shh, I'm saving it for the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't waste any cleverness on you.
Yeah, I have a limited amount per day. There's only the tank gets empty.
The brain is too soft to hold anymore.
The brain is too soft. We're hoping that with today's podcast, we keep your soft brain just as soft, but not any more soft. You don't want to get any dumber.
The goal is to really have no change.
No change. We don't want to make you too smart, but we don't want to make you dumb either.
Fucking stupid.
So what's your topic?
I have been calling this the Royal Breakdown. The Royal Breakdown.
Okay.
So this is basically, I wanted to talk about, like, noble and royal titles and the UK peerage system.
Ooh.
So how much do you know about that?
Very little.
Me too. So I didn't know much about anything when I started this, but it's kind of interesting. Kind of.
I guess
kind
I
of
will
soft.
be the judge of that.
Yes. Okay. So, the Royal Breakdown. So, I thought I would start off with just talking about, like, noble titles.
I originally thought the noble breakdown was, like...
Royal Breakdown.
Yeah, the Royal Breakdown. That's the one. I thought that it was, like, some royal person broke down, and this was their story of them breaking down.
Like a nervous
like mentally
breakdown.
breaking down.
No, like,
no,
this is I'm breaking down the information.
I like this. This is right up my alley. Facts. Things that I will never forget ever again in my life.
That facts and that burp was in sync.
Yeah.
Rewind and listen to that if you have that available, because they were at exactly the same time and they ended at exactly the same time.
Wow. You're so clean.
Synchronized burping.
All right, so the Royal Breakdown.
Okay. Yes, I mean breakdown is in breaking down
Yes.
the information.
Yes, I understand. Proceed.
Breakdown.
We are on a time limit with mine. I will put that forward.
We ain't on no time limit. We ain't got no restrictions. We ain't got no sponsors. We can do whatever we want.
That's true. If you want to sponsor
Yes,
us, please let us know. We can upgrade. This is day 2 of putting the sock over the microphone as a dampener.
We only accept handwritten letters on cardstock if you'd like to be a sponsor.
Actually, I require a extra large sized check, and you can mail it to us. That's the only thing that we will accept.
One of those ones that they give away on like old
lottery wins
lottery
and stuff.
TV shows.
Yeah. They still do that.
Sure, they do. All right. So, the Royal Breakdown. So, the first thing is the word sovereign, which we all know. So, maybe we can make this like a quiz. What is a sovereign?
A sovereign?
A sovereign.
I didn't know it could be a. I thought sovereign and sovereignty, or I guess
you
that's
can
the
use
word.
sovereign as a term for leader or ruler, which I just gave you the answer.
I thought it was like more independent.
Well, it can be if you're talking about a country,
right?
But we're talking about people.
Okay.
So a sovereign is kind of just a general term for leader and ruler. Yeah. So it's just talking about all types of different sovereigns, basically. Okay. So the first one is imperial titles. The first of that being the term emperor or commander. And their term is called...
Dun, dun, dun.
soft is their brain?
Couldn't tell you. It's really soft right now.
Empire.
Oh, yes. I didn't know what the question was. The question was...
The term of an emperor is called...
The term?
Yeah, the term in which they are the sovereign.
That doesn't make sense to me. When I think
of the period of time.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
The period of time in which an emperor is in charge.
Yes,
it's called
an empire. Okay, go ahead.
It's okay.
Let's go.
Okay, so there's Caesar was an emperor, right?
Yes. Who had an empire.
Because he was an emperor.
Yes.
They're
I know, I was just confirming what you taught me earlier.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
He's tense. So Caesar was a dictator, right? Julius Caesar, whose great nephew and adopted son became the first emperor of Rome. So actually Julius Caesar wasn't an emperor, but his great nephew was the first emperor of Rome.
Why was he a dictator and not an emperor?
I don't know, because he wasn't. And then the 4 successors from the guy who actually was the first emperor of Rome, Julius Caesar's great nephew, he each had adoptive sons as his predecessors. And they were all given the name...
You can't have a son as a predecessor.
What do you mean?
You predeceased by the person. That's what a predecessor is. How did his son predecease him? All of his adoptive sons predeceased him. That doesn't make sense.
It's opposite. Successor.
Okay.
Augustus's 4 successors were each made the adoptive son of his predecessor. That's a confusing sentence.
Yeah, that's really, really hard to understand.
Come
sorry.
on, Wikipedia.
This is tough.
So therefore, they all used the term Caesar because they were like legally entitled to use it because they were like related to him. Related quote unquote.
Adoption.
Yes. But then there was a disruption and then the familiar link, whatever, was broken. Like they no longer had that name. And then it was only used as a title after that. So now it's actually used as a title to mean emperor.
Caesar?
Yes. So you could say like he was a Caesar.
Gotcha.
He was a Caesar salad.
Tasty drink, tasty salad.
He was a Caesar wrap.
Man. Ooh, I could go for a Caesar right now. That would be a perfect
Caesar drink or a Caesar
A little bit of both,
salad.
but the drink.
Okay. So next term underneath emperor, we have high royal titles. So we have King of Kings, which is mostly used in Christian contexts. So mostly used like in the Bible and stuff. So I talk about Christian Roman emperors and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is a high king. So a king who rules over lesser kings. And a high king, an example of a high king is a pharaoh, actually. So when you're thinking of an Egyptian pharaoh, they're actually a high king, not a king. Because
Gotcha.
they rule over other kings in Egypt.
Gotcha. You know who else is a high king?
Who?
King Snoop Dogg.
Does he rule over other kings?
No, he's a high king. King Snoop. All right, proceed.
Well, clever. The next one is just king, which we know.
Which is a regular old king.
The realm of a king, the period of time in which a king is called what?
Kingdom.
Yes, a kingdom. Did it this time. Good job. And then also some other versions of kings are sultans, like from Aladdin.
Mm-hmm.
Also from, Arabic.
Is his area a salt? What is his kingdom called?
Sultan?
Yeah. What's a sultan's
Agrabah.
king?
Are you talking about Aladdin?
No, I'm talking about the empire of the emperor, the kingdom of the king, the what of the sultan.
I don't know.
You brought 2 to me, and you didn't bring to me the most interesting one.
Well, I can find out.
No, I'll find out.
I don't think there's a name for it.
Keep telling me your story.
I copied that information, and when it had that information, it included it. Like the term Khan, which is the next one.
Oh.
Their realm is called a Khanate.
Oh.
But for Sultan, it didn't say. Is there one?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Oh, a sultanate, right there. The dynasty and lands ruled by a sultan are referred to as a sultanate.
Now you know.
So basically, if you add the word Nate to the end, that is it's a realm.
King Nate.
Khanate.
Emperor 8.
Sultanate. No, there's 2.
2 makes a pattern.
2. Okay, next we have queen. So the female equivalent of a king, and we'll get more into that later when we talk about the UK peerage system.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have grand dukes, who are ruler of a grand duchy. UK has such silly words sometimes. Nowadays, it's considered to be the 3rd highest monarchical rank in the Western world.
In the Western world.
So after emperor and king and queen, there's grand duke.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like basically because you own so much land.
Yeah. Powerful guy. Or girl.
Yeah. Well, no, then she'd be a duchess.
Well, yeah. Exists.
Grand duchess, not grand duke.
Yeah.
Like Grand Duchess Anastasia.
Right.
Pretty sure she was a grand duchess. I don't know. Next is prince, which is from Latin, meaning first citizen. Which I thought was kind of interesting.
Guess that makes sense though, because
They're first.
they are the first citizen of the king and queen, right?
Yeah, they're the first of the kingdom.
Does make sense.
The feminine form is
Princess.
wow, well done. Yes. Okay, and then we have duke, just regular duke, not a grand duke, which means leader, which is a military rank in the late Roman Empire, but now it's used more to talk about like when they own, right, a duchy.
Okay.
Which is a certain area. Right?
Kinda got it.
So a duke is the highest ranking member of the English nobility, or the peerage system, which we'll talk a little bit about later. Then we have other noble titles, other royal titles that came up just when searching up this stuff. You have the term sheik.
Like the Iron Sheik.
Yeah, it's often used as a title for Arab royal families.
Do you know who the Iron Sheik is?
Yes.
Who is he? You don't know
That
who
guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, not who I was thinking
Not
it
who
was.
you thought it was. The Iron Sheik is an old wrestler from way back when.
Okay.
Wish I looked like the Iron Sheik.
I don't.
Proceed.
I'm really glad you don't look like the Iron Sheik. Iron Sheik, not cheek.
Yes.
You could look like his cheek,
Maybe. If I
but
try
not like
hard
the
enough.
chic. Another term, noble term, which I thought you would find interesting, is the tarodaho. Do you know what that means?
I do not.
I thought you would know. But it's the first keeper of the council fire.
Why would I have known that?
Because you're Métis. It's from like Iroquois Confederacy,
Iroquois.
Haudenosaunee, or Five Nations. I don't know what any of those are.
Those are native tribes, I would think.
I would think. So that refers to the individual with the highest authority in their territory and their way of life. They're the firekeeper,
Right.
right? Then you have Dalai Lama, who is the highest authority in Tibetan Buddhism.
Okay.
And then you have the Pope, obviously.
Yes. The old Pope.
Ye old Pope. Then we have counts, who are the ruler of counties, but they're now known as earls in modern Britain. So they don't use that term anymore. Not exactly sure why. And then you have viscount, theoretically the ruler of a viscounty, but it's kind of just like if you have enough land, you can get the title of
Anybody
viscount.
can get it. Pay to win.
Kind of. And then there's baron and lowly barons. Way at the bottom, nobody cares about you if you're a baron. Theoretically, the ruler of a barony.
Okay.
Okay, so now, as far as the UK peerage system goes, so now that we have a breakdown, so tie right at the top of the UK peerage system, well, actually not in the peerage system technically, but the sovereign of the UK is
The queen.
The queen! And she outranks everyone.
Right.
Okay?
She's the queen.
So do you know why she is in power and not Philip is in power?
Didn't Philip not... It's not... He married into her family, didn't...
That's right. So she inherited the throne.
Right.
So Prince Philip...
he wasn't in the bloodline.
Right.
He's irrelevant.
Right. He's irrelevant. You hear that, Philip? You're irrelevant!
It doesn't matter.
But the queen holds all the power because she inherited directly from Victoria.
Right.
Was the Queen Victoria before
Correct.
Queen Elizabeth? Don't quote me on that.
And then before her would have been
Queen Elizabeth the
Queen
first.
Elizabeth. Right.
Yes. So, however, you have two terms for this. So you have the queen who is in power. Then you also have the queen consort. The queen consort is the wife of the king. So she has no power.
So
A
kind of
little confusing, right?
No, it does make sense. So it would be
does.
like the first lady kind of thing.
Kind of. So, like, if she's just a queen and she's the sovereign, right? Then she has power. But if she's the queen consort, she has no power and the king is in charge.
Right.
Which...
you can't be one and the same. Gotcha.
Right. So today, sometimes we use the word queen regnant or sometimes reigning queen, which maybe you've heard.
And I guess it would be the same, so it would be a king.
No, the king's not the same because they've never had this problem before, really.
Right.
Like in modern days, it used to be
It was
all men,
always
right?
men, yeah.
There was never a queen in power. So now this is only just like becoming a need to differentiate.
Right.
But basically there is two different things. So we have the queen and then we have Royal Duke Prince Philip. Okay, so Prince Philip is the Queen of England's husband. And he owns like a shit ton of land. And
Yeah, of course. They all do.
in charge of everything, right? So prince or princess would be the child of the monarch, and they inherit their title from their father or mother. So that's why you cannot call Kate Middleton Princess Kate.
Yes,
because that's not what she is.
Yeah, just like the king married into it, she married
Exactly.
into it.
So all you news articles and like the trashy tabloids that call her Princess Kate, she ain't even a princess, so try again.
Take that, the son.
Take that in your pipe and smoke it.
And the National Enquirer.
Yeah.
I'll see you at the end of the checkout line, and I'll tell you piece of my mind.
Right next to the Archie comics.
Yes.
And the dentine gum.
Yeah. Keep going. I'm going to let the dog in.
Well, pause it.
It's okay. Everybody else can pause it. And we're back.
And
Dog is inside, and we are ready to go.
she is. Okay, so you can't call her Princess Kate. However, this is where it gets confusing again, because we're in the UK, she inherits her husband's name when they're married. So actually, you can call her Princess William of Wales. But you cannot call her Princess Kate, but you can call her Princess William of Wales.
Yes.
But that's generally viewed as being overly formal, so they just call her the Duchess of Cambridge. Because when they were married, they were given the Duchy of Cambridge. So William is now the Duke of Cambridge, and she's the Duchess of Cambridge.
Right.
The same rule goes for Diana. Technically, we can't call her Princess Diana, but we can call her Princess of Wales.
Right.
But everybody calls her Princess Diana.
Everybody, yeah.
Right? Weird.
That is weird.
So, Duke or Duchess is the highest of 5 degrees in the British peerage. So, traditionally, sons of the monarchy were given a dukedom when they came of age. Yes.
Sounds like a Pokemon.
Yes.
Dukedom.
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 Dukedom. But now they're more often given it when they get married.
Right.
So William and Kate, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, and Harry and Meghan are the Duke and Duchess of, do you know? It's Sussex.
It's Sussex, okay.
They're the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. That sounds kind of Scottish.
That sounds like an Essex accent, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's Essex that I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I just got your number, but...
Please don't be offended.
Be offended.
Take that, you talk dumb. Use proper words.
No. What you talk in the booth, friend?
Yeah,
You hoser.
I guess, yeah. Canadians can't really talk.
Yes. Harry, when he inherited his dukedom, It also came with 2 other titles. He's the Earl of Dumbarton and Baron Kilkeel. Kilkeel.
Gotcha. So he's got his fair share of land.
So does William. They all do. They all have land. So the next one after Duke, so we got Duke first, then we have Marquess and Marchioness. And this was created for people in the Welsh and Scottish marshes.
The swamp people.
The swamp people. The highest ranking Marquess in England is...
I'm Swamp King.
I am Swamp King. I am Marquess of Swamp.
Feel my wrath.
The highest ranking Marquess in England is Nigel George Paulet, 18th Marquess of Winchester, who currently lives in South Africa.
That guy, huh? I
just wanted to say 18th Marquess of Winchester because it sounds fancy.
That's so stupid.
18th Marquess of Winchester.
Okay.
The next one is Earl. And what do you think the opposite of an Earl is for females?
Squirrel!
The Earl and the Squirrel?
Yeah.
And she is the Squirrel of Cambridge.
That's not right.
No. What did Earl used to be? This is the quiz.
Oh, shit.
Quiz. Do you know the answer? Leave your comments down below. It used to be the term of Monte Cristo.
Oh, the Count.
Count.
Right.
Yes, that's right. So Earl used to be Count. So the feminine version has not changed.
Still Countess.
And it's Countess. So you have Earl and Countess. I don't know why.
Dumb.
Why didn't they change it to Pearl?
Because
or
Earl
Squirrel?
is a stupid name. Yeah, I vote Squirrel. Excuse me, Queen, can you change the name from Countess to Squirrel, please? Thank you.
She only accepts handwritten letters on cardstock.
On cardstock, right.
Okay, so Earl and Countess. One of the most controversial things in the royal system was when the Queen's youngest son, Prince Edward, broke the royal tradition of getting a dukedom and instead chose the title of the Earl of Wessex when he got married.
It?
Yeah, he just decided to be an earl instead of a duke.
Must be nice to be white and have power, huh?
White privilege.
Yeah, no kidding.
Royal privilege.
I'm going to take this land because I want it.
Well, yeah, that's kind of their whole shtick.
That's true, yeah.
So yeah, he did that in 1999 when he got married. But he will be granted a dukedom when the title reverts to the crown.
Right.
Then you have Viscounts and Viscountess, obviously.
Yep.
They're the 4th in the peerage, and a little interesting thing. There's the Earl and Countess of Wessex had a son, and he took one of his father's titles. His eldest sister did not inherit the title because at the time, the title would only be passed to the eldest male heir. Mm-hmm. But this has now changed. So if Prince George was a girl, he would have all the power no matter who came after.
Right.
Right? Even if it was a boy.
Because they're trying to be more progressive.
That's right. They take that patriarchy.
Yeah. Well, it's been a matriarchy for how long, right?
Well, true. Yeah. Longest reigning monarch. Okay, then we have Lord and Lady. So barons, viscounts, earls, marquesses, and their female counterparts are often referred to as Lord and Lady. So it's just kind of a general catch-all term for people who was part of the peerage system.
I'm trying to remember all
but
this.
Not,
it's very difficult.
But not dukes. Dukes are not lords and ladies.
Right.
Dukes are usually your grace. Okay?
Okay.
So everyone but duke you can call lord or lady. And the last one is baron. Nobody cares about barons, baroness. They're lowly barons.
Nobody, yeah.
Yes.
They don't matter.
That's right. And then
like Prince Harry.
No, Prince Harry.
No, King.
They are also barons, but they're also dukes and earls.
They're
and
everything,
they have everything.
because they have money.
Yes.
And
then you have something called a life peer. A life peer is an honor granted to an individual. It's kind of like being knighted. And it can't be passed down to your children. And they're currently suggested to the Queen by the Prime Minister. And then they announce them at like an honors list.
you made the Queen's honor roll.
You made the Queen's list.
Yeah.
Some famous life peers are Sir Elton John, Dame Helen Mirren, and Sir Ian McKellen.
Okay, so yeah, knighted.
So if you have, but there's something else that comes out with being a life peer. If you are a life peer, you can be part of the House of Lords. So peers have the birthright to sit in the House of Lords as well. which is their upper house of British Parliament. But for the longest time, because of that male-only inheritance rule, there was only males in there, right? So there was no females in the upper house of British Parliament until 1958, when the Prime Minister and the Queen decided, that's enough of that. Right. And they decided that they could decide who got this life peer title. So they decided it's not just going to be inherited. We get to decide.
They decided that they got to decide.
Exactly.
Like, we're tired of the old way. Let's do it this way now.
Yes.
Okay.
So they decided they wanted to decide. So now there's some women in there, but it's still kind of a boys' club.
Yes.
Sausage fest.
A little bit.
So the oldest son, Charles, has the sweetest deal of all the peerage, people. Mm-hmm. He's the eldest son, so he gets the title of the Duke of Cornwall, plus all the income generated by Duchy of Cornwall, which is where the royal family's real estate portfolios are. So the statistics were from 2015 to 2016, that area generated about 40.8 million in profit. So Prince Charles...
So your boy's got money. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you're a duke, you're pretty well off.
Yeah.
You're also royalty, so that must be nice.
Yeah, that's totally unrelated, right?
That's about it. Did you have any questions?
I feel like we should have worn powdered wigs today.
That would have been great. Can you rank? Now I'd like you to rank the monarch titles from highest to lowest, male forms.
I can't do it off the top of my head, dude.
From highest to lowest.
A king.
Okay.
Duke.
Yes.
A squirrel, but an earl.
Well, you don't need to do feminine version.
Earl? Or is there something between Duke and Earl?
Something between Duke and Earl.
Ooh. Count? No, that's a Duke.
Count?
Today, Junior!
DJ, drop that beat.
What's between the two?
Duke, Marquess.
Oh, I totally whiffed that, yeah.
Earl, yes. Then what?
A Viscount.
Very good. And
your old friend, the Baron.
That's correct. That was pretty good. You only missed one.
Wow.
What about the female versions?
Queen, a duchy. Is that the opposite?
A duchess.
A duchess? Yeah.
A duchy. Those are those donuts that you can eat. Yeah. A duchy.
A duchy. The Marquess. Marquis.
Marchioness. I don't know how to say it.
And then the
Marchioness?
Squirrel.
No, what's opposite of Earl?
Not squirrel.
No, it's not squirrel. Opposite of a count?
Countess.
Yes. And then? These ones are easy.
The Viscountess. And the Baroness.
Very good. Woo! That's the royal breakdown.
Yay.
Now when people talk to us about the UK peerage system, you can be like,
well, actually,
let me tell you.
Well, actually, did I ever tell you where powdered wigs came from?
No. Where did they come from?
Do you know why the whole fashion thing of powdered wigs ended up coming around specifically in England?
No.
It was actually because of syphilis. Everybody was losing their hair.
Oh, you have told me this before.
Yeah,
Ew.
And the powder, I think, don't quote me on it, but I think that the powder was used to offset the smell. Ew. Because their heads would stink from syphilis.
I'm going to cover up my head stank with some powder.
So they would cover it up with a powdered wig.
I got to powder my wig so it don't be stanky.
Stanky ass weave.
Ew.
That was very interesting. Thank you for teaching me.
I wasn't sure if it would be that interesting. I thought you would think it was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Other people may not think the same way. I'm not saying that it was bad.
I'm teaching you things.
But I really value that.
I'm educating you.
I really enjoy it.
I know.
What's nice is that was very lighthearted as well.
Is this not lighthearted?
No, let's take a turn down.
Oh, it's Justin's turn, and we're gonna take a little.
We're gonna take a little turn somewhere where you know what? It's not very great.
Not very sunny and happy.
No, not at all. I'm noticing a pattern with mine. Might need to shake it up.
He likes to talk about sad things.
It's actually another thing that happened in England.
Oh, you jolly old England!
Yeah. So. Queen, you can send that big giant royalty check to us.
You're welcome.
Tourism England is going to get a huge boost. Have you ever heard of the name James Bulger?
James Bulger.
Yeah.
Sounds semi-familiar, but I don't know.
So when I was doing research, I was looking and I found a lot of messed up people. There's obviously a lot of weird men. Some weird women, but definitely a lot of weird men, because men are dogs. But there's not that many really messed up kids. And so I was looking into it and I was like, okay.
Messed up in what way? Are you going to tell me?
Well, just kind of sociopathic, psychotic, like those really weird.
It starts when you're a kid.
Yeah, and I guess
Brain's
it just doesn't
really
manifest.
developed.
Exactly. It takes a while for it to bloom into an ugly little flower. So
It
I was
takes a while
thinking
for it
about
to bloom into an ugly little soft brain.
Yeah. So back in February of 1993, Clarke wouldn't even have been born yet.
Almost born.
I would have been about 5 months old.
Mama would have been pregnant with me.
She would have been pregnant. I would have been 5 months old, so don't you forget it.
Okay, the Justin Peerage system.
Yeah, just the period system. You are below me because you are younger. Now kiss the ring.
Oh.
So there was a 2-year-old boy by the name of James Bulger. He was unfortunately abducted, tortured, and killed. It was in a place called the Boodle, is where he was abducted and killed.
Boodle?
Yeah, Boodle.
Is that the name of the town?
It's a town. It's, you know how like there's boroughs in New York, like there's Brooklyn and Manhattan and stuff. There's sections of the town. Boodle is one of these towns. It was like kind of like a borough.
A suburb?
In a bigger, yeah, I think that's kind of what it is. We don't really have big suburbs where
Boodle?
we're from. Boodle,
It's like
a
poodle,
boot.
poodle, but with a B.
Thank you for making this much lighter because it's going to need it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's in northwest England.
Oh, that's why it's jolly old Boodle, is it?
So I'm going to show you a quick picture here.
Okay.
So we will put this up on our website.
Or blog.
Or
it's in the
blog.
works.
It's in the works. It is coming along very nicely. Clarke is doing a fantastic
Please
job.
describe the picture.
So we're looking at a picture. It's a CCTV picture of James, the little 2-year-old boy here.
Holding hands.
Oh, man.
Oh, the screen just went black.
Hopefully the computer didn't turn off.
Oh, technical difficulties.
The sock is holding up. That's all that matters.
Good job, sock.
All right. So I'm just showing Clarke this picture. There is this little boy, 2-year-old boy walking
Holding
around.
hands with a guy wearing a puffy jacket.
This is actually another boy by the name of John Venables.
Okay.
He's holding the boy's hand, walking in front of those two.
How old is he?
Walking in front of those two is a boy named Robert Thompson.
Walking in front of them?
Yeah, this guy here.
Okay.
So there's these 3 boys. Robert and John are 10 years old.
Oh, looks like a man in that picture.
Yeah, it's just, well, we're looking at CCTV from the early 90s. It's not high def, right?
Not high def.
So it looks just like a family of boys kind of leading their little brother through a shopping mall.
Okay.
Kind of thing, right? Oddly enough, these are the 2 boys, John and Robert. They're in the process of abducting James to later torture and kill him on the side of a railway embankment.
Jeez.
10 years old. So John and Robert abducted James from the New Strand shopping center in Boodle. James was at the mall with his mom Denise that afternoon. While they were shopping, John and Robert, they were playing hooky like kids do. Not much to do in Boodle, I don't think.
Not much to do except abduct and torture someone.
Exactly, right? So I believe they call playing hooky
jolly
truancy.
good Boodle ain't so jolly good anymore.
Yeah, and they're 10 years old. So they're skipping school. They were cruising through the mall like a couple degenerates. They were stealing a bunch of shit, throwing it down the escalators just to have a laugh kind of thing. Some things they did end up keeping that they stole. There was a bunch of blue paint that they took, some candies they took,
Blue paint.
batteries. Yeah, it was really
just like
weird.
stealing things for the sake of stealing things.
Exactly. They're just being a couple shitheads. Mm-hmm. At one moment, Denise, James' mom, was distracted really briefly, and before she knew it, James was gone, disappeared. Boys, John and Robert grabbed his hand and just walked out of the mall. So, weirdly enough, James wasn't even their first target. Yeah, sorry about that. That's our dog. James wasn't even their first target. Another mom had noticed that there was these 2 boys trying to get the attention of her kids. She had a 3-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. Weird that it's that same age range. She looked around frantically and noticed after noticing these two boys trying to get her kids' attention, she kind of looked away, thought nothing of it. Then she looked back at her kids, and her kids were gone.
This is the other mother.
The other mother. She looked around frantically. She quickly found the daughter, but she was unable to find her son. The daughter said that the boy had gone outside with the other boy. Weird. So the mom called out for her son, and she ran outside looking for her kid. She ended up finding John and Robert motioning for this other boy to follow them. John saw the mom and told the boy to go back to her and then they ended up running off kind of thing. So,
bro, why didn't you call the police?
Weird, right? But who knows? That could have been kids are weird, right?
Well, yeah, I guess they're being only 10, but
yeah,
still.
They're only 10. You wouldn't think anything of a 10-year-old kid. If she hadn't found them by chance, it's pretty certain that kid would have ended up dead.
Yeah, no kidding.
So John and Robert went back inside, and they were hanging around a snack shop, eyeing up some candy to steal. And they noticed James wandering around the door at a nearby butcher shop. His mom, Denise, was inside buying meat. They saw the mom. She was briefly distracted when she was trying to get her meat order. And that was enough of a window for them to try to repeat the abduction. So we saw the picture of the CCTV. They kind of motioned for him. The three left the mall at 3:42 p.m. based off that CCTV footage. The mom, Denise, searched for James. Didn't obviously find him. She went to mall security, and they called for the kid over the PA. Nothing happened. So about half an hour later, it was about 4:15. They couldn't find James, so he was reported missing to the local police.
But when? How much longer later?
Half hour.
Okay.
So he was gone for half hour, and they
Not
called
that
the police within half an hour.
Nowadays, it would have been like an Amber Alert.
Well, I'm pretty sure they had Amber Alerts back then, too, but you would...
Did they?
I've gotten lost tons of times in grocery stores and shit. My parents just looked for me.
Tons of times, honey?
Yeah.
Should I be concerned?
No. I wasn't a teenager. I was a kid.
Tons of times?
I turned out okay. So the three of them, like I said, they left them all at 3:42. They actually walked in total around 4 kilometers, or about 2.5 miles, through Liverpool to the Leeds and Liverpool Canal, where they actually ended up dropping James on his head, causing...
How do they know how far they walked?
Well, because that's where
Because
they
of witness
ended up.
accounts or what?
We'll get there. Why don't you let me tell my story?
Okay, well, I'm
So
confused.
they went through Liverpool to the Leeds and Liverpool Canal, where they dropped James on his head, causing several injuries to his head and his face, to his forehead. A woman who was passing by noticed that James was crying on the ground, noticed he had the bump, continued to walk by.
Beach.
You're going to notice a pattern.
I know that you in England don't like to talk to each other, but talk to each other.
During this walk, they were seen by over 38 witnesses.
Oh my god. Well, that's the thing, because they're kids. Nobody thinks anything
Nobody
about
thinks
it.
of it, right?
Don't blame you, witnesses. I know it's hard.
Oh, but wait, it gets worse.
Okay.
After they dropped James on his head, his forehead split open and was starting to bruise. They pulled up his hood to try to kind of cover up the forehead, make it so people couldn't see. When police interviewed witnesses, another person noticed the partially covered, beat-up forehead. Another one saw James crying. Neither witness notified anyone or intervened. 3 boys continued their walk through Liverpool, even walking down one of their busiest streets. Tons of people obviously are in the street. Lots of people notice them because it's 3 boys. Some of them say at this point they saw James laughing and kind of joking around. The toddler is James. Others remember seeing him being pulled, trying to pull away from the 2 older boys, calling for his mom. One of the witnesses even saw Robert kick James in the ribs. Did nothing about it. Another woman inside her house saw Robert punch James and shake the shit out of him. All she did was shut her curtains. Interesting pattern here.
Not in my neighborhood.
So James could have been saved yet again, this time by an old woman. She walked up to the boys and she asked what was wrong. The older boys, Robert and John, they said that they found this kid at the bottom of the hill. So this old woman's natural response was, "Oh, okay, that's okay. You take him to the Walton Lane police station then. I'm just going to let you go. See you."
Whoops.
Didn't want to get involved. So they walked off.
Enough.
She called out once more after them. They didn't turn around, so she thought, whatever. My good deed for the day is done.
Almost a really good deed.
Almost a really good deed.
But
we know
now
that
it's almost a bad deed.
Exactly. And at this point, there's a bunch of people that have seen this and didn't do anything, so you get a bad feeling, right? Shortly after that... I had a
bad feeling considering how you started the story.
Yeah, I guess I could have drawn out that he got killed, but... Shortly after this old woman told them to go to the police station, there was another intervention. Another woman was concerned for James. She told Robert and John that she herself would take James to the police station. As their luck would have it, the woman was apparently unable to look after 2 kids at one time. She had her own daughter. Rather than bring her daughter with her and take James to the police station, she asked some random bystander to look after her daughter when she went to take James to the police station.
What?
The woman said no because her dog didn't like kids.
What's going on in Liverpool?
Fuck everybody in Liverpool, right? Nobody likes anybody.
Except for the Beatles.
You're not allowed to talk to anybody.
Except for you, Paul McCartney. And
stop an abduction. So James slips loose once again. So they continue on their walk. They went into a couple different stores where the shopkeep would be suspicious of Robert and John, the 2 older kids. Nothing was really done. They let them go. They even came across 2 older boys than John and Robert that John and Robert knew. They asked who the toddler was. John said, it's just Robert's brother. We're taking him home now. Off they went. They kept walking, and eventually they reached a railway embankment where Robert and John would proceed to torture and kill James sometime between 5:45 and 6:30, a minimum of 2 hours after they abducted him.
Oh my God.
Get this though. The Walton Lane police station that the woman had mentioned earlier, that was across the street from this railway embankment.
What? How did they not
literally
see them?
A railway embankment is like a rail track and it's on a hill.
Yeah,
remember in The Walking Dead? So if you're on one side, the police can see you. If you're on the other side, nobody can see you.
Yeah.
So he was abducted and killed by 2 10-year-old boys. That's bad enough. What makes it worse is what the 2 10-year-old boys did to this toddler. I'm going to go into it kind of briefly just so you don't... Because it's obviously... it's kind of weird. If you listening don't want to hear about it, maybe skip ahead a bit, just so you don't kind of have to listen too much about it.
Skip ahead 70 seconds.
At minimum. I don't go into great detail, but I tell you what happened. So they stole some of that blue paint. They had it with them. They started off by throwing it into James' left eye. Now that their 2-year-old enemy, their foe, is incapacitated and they can do as they want because he's 2 and they're 10, they proceed to kick him, stomp him, throw bricks at him, stones. They took handfuls of batteries that they stole and stuffed them into his mouth.
Oh, jeez.
They took a fish plate, and a fish plate is what railways use to connect the rail together, because it's obviously not one long 50-mile piece of rail.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bunch of smaller pieces connected.
A track.
Yeah,
almost.
So it's like a little brace that goes and connects the 2 pieces of track.
Mm-hmm.
They picked up this fish plate. It's about 22 pounds, 10 kgs. They beat James with the chunk of iron, giving him 10 skull fractures. They beat him up so badly that he had a total of 42 notable injuries to his face, head, and body. They basically beat him to a pulp. He was so badly maimed that it was impossible to determine what injury actually killed him. Then, story's not done. They took James' lifeless body. Forensic pathologists, they testified James was most likely dead at this point. They laid him on the railway track and covered his head in rubble to weigh him down. They were hoping that a train would come by, hit James, and make it look like an accident. So they buried the guy's head to weigh him down. John and Robert then left the scene, presumably went home. Unfortunately for James' family, a train ended up coming down the tracks later on and cut his body in half.
Oh my God.
So the forensic pathologist knows for certain that James was dead at this point. He was not alive when hit by the train.
No kidding.
But that's a big thing, right? Like, you would not want your child to go through That on top of everything else.
Well, yeah, but like beat him with a what? You said 22 pounds.
Yeah, that's heavy. And this is you have to remember this. He was a month shy of his third birthday. So he's a month shy of his third birthday.
What is wrong with these kids?
So the search for James was on because they wanted to find him. Obviously,
the search was on.
The mom and dad normally they're the first suspects, right? Because they're the mom and dad. That's a natural assumption. So police checked the CCTV. They were shocked to see that James was being led by two kids. What kind of 10-year-olds would abduct a kid, right? The footage,
fucked up kids, that's who.
Well, yeah. So the footage was released to the public in an attempt to find James, see if anybody had seen them. James' dad saw the footage and he told the mom, Denise, he's going to be all right. He's with two young kids. He's going to be all right. 2 days later, James' severed body was found on the railway track by a group of 4 kids. So this is across the street.
Wow, it's like Stand By Me.
Yeah. This is across the street from the police station. The body being found at most 200 yards from their front door. Police investigated the scene. They found the iron bar with blood all over it, stones, bricks, the can of paint, all covered in blood.
They didn't hide that shit?
Nothing.
So they're like, he's going to get run over by trains. That's fine. Nobody's going to know. But
yeah.
Let's not hide the murder weapon.
Well, they're kids, right?
Well, that's true.
Police thought there was a sexual element into the crime as well, because his shoes, socks, pants, and underwear were all removed. The forensic pathologist found that James' foreskin had been pulled back against his will, so it was forcibly retracted.
Oh my god.
The case made national news. Police were looking for the 2 boys. Numerous kids were identified as potential killers just based off of absentee lists, kids that were skipping school.
Yeah, all kids are the same.
Everybody at nearby schools for the day that James went missing, if you were absent, you might be someone they're looking at. Originally, they were looking for somebody around 13, 14, because it's hard to tell from the video.
Yeah.
So one of the kids that actually was questioned, he was detained and released. It obviously wasn't him that did it. His family ended up having to leave the city because vigilantes were threatening them by giving them death threats.
It's like the Reddit hive mind.
Yeah.
The beginning
But real life, in person. Eventually, this woman had seen enhanced pictures of the 2 boys and placed a call to the police. She recognized them, knew that they had skipped that day. Police went to homes of John and Robert, and they found various pieces of clothing and shoes and stuff with paint and blood on them. They connected them to the crime pretty much without a doubt. So these are the 2 kids, John Venables and Robert Thompson.
What the fuck?
Normal looking kids.
Yeah.
Nothing really seems wrong with them. Kids, right? 10-year-old boys.
Yeah.
Which is, and I think that kind of added to the story shock. And the shock, right? Is because these are so young. Maybe you wouldn't expect it with a teenager, but it would be more acceptable, I think, than a 10-year-old.
Well, yeah,
committing it, right?
Well, not really acceptable.
Acceptable is not the right word, but it's more believable.
Yeah, I guess.
So John and Robert were arrested and tried for the murder of James. Their parents were moved to different cities and given brand new identities due to other vigilante death threats, threatening to kill them as parents of these 2 kids. The trial began on November 1st, 1993. It was conducted as an adult trial.
Oh, really?
John and Robert were on the dock away from their parents. All court officials and the judge were all in their official legal brouhaha thing.
Brouhaha.
They had everything dressed to the nines. I guess normally with child trials, they usually dumb it down a little bit so it's not as intimidating.
Yeah, okay.
They were interviewed separately. So leading up to the trial, they were interviewed. They, of course, turned on each other because they're 10 years old. John eventually confessed, admitting to killing James and saying, "What about his mom? Will you tell her I'm sorry?" Robert, on the other hand, totally denied everything in his interviews, only messing up by giving a detailed account of what James was wearing at the time.
So he denied it the whole time?
The entire time. That's the only thing that connected him was the blood that they found and the fact that he said what James was wearing.
Mm-hmm.
Robert was oddly unfazed by the whole process. The media even called him the boy who didn't cry.
So he was like the mastermind, clearly.
Was he?
I don't know. There's only two options.
The public disgust got worse. Robert continued to seem unremorseful in comparison to John. Psychiatrists and police have never since...
Or is John sociopathic?
That's the other thing. So John was he was seen crying and stuff in front of cameras and everything, and during the interview, definitely the weaker of the two. The public disgust got worse when Robert continued.
Disgust or
disgust? They were disgusted.
Okay.
Disgust. Disgust.
Okay.
He was unremorseful in comparison to John. Psychiatrists and police both interviewed them. They never could come to a conclusion what the motive was. Even now, they don't know what the motive was. They were able to. There was a court therapist determined that both of them knew right from wrong. They were not sociopaths or psychopaths.
I'd like a second opinion.
But that they're saying that they knew right from wrong.
Okay.
They were convicted of numerous charges, and they were sentenced to serve at Her Majesty's pleasure, which is a normal sentence for juvenile offenders who are convicted of murder and
Her Majesty's pleasure is
what
what it's
it
called?
basically means the Queen, Her Majesty, can say when the sentence is up.
Okay.
So it's it's indefinite in length, but it comes with a minimum sentence.
Interesting.
So this case, it was only an 8-year minimum.
Minimum.
Not
maximum.
In the interest of public safety, the judge allowed for the media to publish both John and Robert's names.
Yeah, because usually they can't publish kids' names.
The judge said that he did this in the public because the public interest overrode the interest of the defendants. There was a need for an informed public debate on crimes committed by young children. Which,
interesting.
To be fair, that's what it's doing.
Yeah.
Numerous petitions with hundreds of thousands of signatures were done to increase the minimum amount of time spent behind bars. Some of them were successful in getting a couple 100,000 signatures, but the judge ended up keeping it at 8 years.
Well, it's not his pleasure; it's the Majesty's pleasure.
Right, but he can increase the minimum.
Okay.
So one of the petitions, it had like almost 300,000 signatures. I think they wanted to raise it to 15 years minimum. 2001.
But I'm confused. If it's a minimum, then so the Queen just didn't
8 years
say
to
anything.
life. I'm pretty sure Her Majesty's pleasure just means the state.
So there was nothing done by the state to change
to increase it.
To increase them, whatever years. Okay.
The judgment remained unchanged. 8 years. They were both released in 2001 after serving their time quietly and without incident. Both were given new identities in order to keep them safe from public fury, because they were getting death threats, of course, their parents were.
Yeah.
That surrounded the trial. There was a constant threat of vigilante justice. That only made the public outrage worse.
So they got new identities?
They would also get a weekly benefit handout for them and their families. Rent-free £65,000 home.
What?
Credit card, family car, round-the-clock police protection. In comparison, James' family got £7,500 for criminal injuries compensation.
Jeez. What the fuck? That's backwards.
Just a little bit, right? So Robert was the one that was the boy who did not cry.
Yes.
He seems to be assimilating back into society, living quietly. John, on the other hand, is a completely different story. In 2010, he was imprisoned for downloading 57 pictures of sexual abuse against male toddlers.
Ew.
These images were also reshared, so it wasn't just him downloading them, he was distributing as well.
Ew.
Afterwards, his parole officer, basically how he was caught, his parole officer was contacted because John thought his identity was found out at his new job. When the PO came to his apartment, John was trying to destroy his computer or the hard drive with his knife. From there, they kind of had an inkling something might be wrong.
Oh, really?
So in 2011, he was given yet another new identity because of a security breach, like an electronic security breach.
What?
He was released after becoming eligible for parole for this downloading of sexual abuse pictures of male toddlers in 2013. So it was 2 years.
Yeah.
In November of 2017, last year, John was arrested again and imprisoned again for downloading more child abuse pictures, as well as a pedophile manual that gave instructions on having sex with children.
Ew, what the fuck, dude? Like, you know they have tabs on you, first of all. Second of all, stop it!
He's currently in prison after pleading guilty to more child porn charges in February of this year.
Ugh.
All in all,
that story's gross. But
that is too... And what I didn't know is the whole... Okay, so kids, you don't normally see them being that off the mark that young.
Yeah.
Usually, like you said, it takes time to manifest.
Yeah.
So
but that's
nature and nurture, right?
But that's what I was thinking about, like, when you started talking about what John is doing now. Like, is it something chemical in your brain? And at what point does that develop that makes you into, like, a pedophile?
Right.
I mean, clearly, I'm almost certain there's, like, a chemical genetic component
Obviously,
of it.
There
has to be based on, like, what we've seen. But, like, we need to figure out how to test for that, I guess.
Well, that's the thing, right?
And how early does it start?
How early does it start? But the problem is, okay, if somebody had that problem, what would you do?
Yeah, what do you do?
You can't. Nobody would admit that.
Chemically castrate them?
Nobody would admit that, though. They wouldn't seek out help. Why would you admit that?
But
I'm not defending him at all here, but there's no way, if he knew that was the issue, there's no way for him to get any kind of assistance. Yeah, he's a terrible human being.
Well, that's why you need perceptive parents.
Right, but as a perceptive parent, you can't know that your kid wants to sexually assault and murder a toddler.
I think you would have some signs. Like, I don't feel like your son would just suddenly do this. Like, you had, like, a good kid. Like, there had to be something that the parents would have noticed about.
But even, okay, so if he never did this and he ended up getting older, maybe this was a trigger that awoke something in him, or maybe it's something that escalated to that point. But so say if that never happened, would he still have been arrested for those same things?
Probably.
Okay, so
because
the question is, how does he avoid that? Is he forever
stays in jail?
No, is he doomed if he knows that he has that internally, that he is I'm sorry, but you're a monster. If that's building up inside of him and he feels like abusing a child, he can't tell anybody about that. He would be tarred and feathered, right?
I know, I'm not saying that he tells anyone about it.
What do you do as a country, or how do you provide support to somebody that has that?
There are some, like, now in the States, I think it is, there's, like, some, like, pedophile support groups and stuff like that.
I feel like, don't get me wrong, I feel like support's not the right word. Yeah. But they do need assistance in some way. They are still human.
Well, remember didn't we watch that YouTube video? There was that guy that was like a self-declared pedophile, and it was like he was talking about...
Right, I remember that. Yeah.
How there are pedophiles out there who don't act on their, like, intentions and stuff like that.
Because they have the willpower to not...
What's the word? Not intentions. Their impulses, yes. I know, but it was really weird. It was still weird.
Yeah.
Because, like, clearly there's still something, like there's something, like, in your brain that is not correct, right?
Something is wired wrong, or you're getting the wrong chemical or dosage.
I'm not a psychiatrist, but my brain's too soft to be a psychiatrist. Yeah. But, like, there's got to be something chemically or hormone imbalance that's, like, so far off that it's something that's ingrained in you.
Right.
So what do you do?
And it can't be all... We do know that this type of human being does get created through nurture as well.
Well, is it exclusively one or the other? No.
No, it's a melding of both. But we do know where, say, if it's a trauma-induced,
right?
Like how many people who are sexually assaulted as a minor end up sexually assaulting when they're older.
Right, but that trauma is not dealt with properly in that person's
It never is.
Life, right? So, and all because of... also probably genetics from their parents. Right?
So food for thought, yeah.
It's
a scary story.
That is scary.
I feel bad for the parents because it obviously hasn't ended.
Oh, God. Like, that's just terrifying. You look away for a fucking second.
It was a second.
That is just terrifying. I never want to have children.
And could you imagine the other woman?
Can you imagine
she
the
felt?
parents? Yeah, the parents of the kids that did it.
Or the parents of the kid that almost got taken.
Like, what's worse? The parents of the kid that got murdered or the parents of the kids who did the murdering?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Leave your comments below. Make sure to smash that unsubscribe button and dislike.
All right, well, you know what? We'll wrap it up. That was almost that's exactly an hour.
Whoa, an hour and 13 seconds. Look at that. So that was the Royal Breakdown and the story of James... What was
James
his last
Bulger.
name? James Bulger.
The murder of James Bulger.
I love true crime stuff.
I do too.
But, it's kind of depressing.
It's very tough to deal with. I think next time I've got something a little bit more lighthearted and fun.
It doesn't need to be like,
No, it doesn't have to be shitting rainbows and stuff.
Not like beaten with a rail.
Yeah, stuff like this I
iron
wouldn't be able to look
every
into
time.
in depth.
I mean, I can, but that's my favorite hobby is Wikipediaing serial killers. But
I really enjoyed it today. Thanks for talking to me.
Thanks for listening.
And thank you guys for listening too.
Keep yourself sufficiently soft.
Yeah, keep your brain sufficiently soft. And if you have any suggestions, please let us know one way or another.
It's time for Caesar salad.
Caesar salad and Caesar drinks. Ooh. Stay sufficiently soft. Good night.
Good night.